good afternoon and welcome to our next company programme training session all about social enterprise. And we've convened a fantastic panel here today, Ray, Bailey and Amy, who are here all to tell you about what they know about social enterprise and a little bit more about their journey as well. So if you do have any questions throughout today, please do put them in the comments and we'll be sure to ask our expert panel throughout the session. So thank you so much everyone for joining us. I hope you are ready to share your wisdom about social enterprise.
A little bit.
The silence is deafening. Right, so I'm going to go around the room and ask for a few introductions just so to our viewers here know who we've got on today. So Ray, I'm going to kick on you first to give a little say hello.
Thanks for having us. I'm Ray Banks. I'm the program manager for the Social Entrepreneurs Fund at Firstport. This is the backbone and best fund that Firstport offer. Obviously, I'm going to say that. That fund is designed to help startup social entrepreneurs get from idea through to ideally investment. So I'm the guy you come to if you want the money, essentially. That's about it.
A good position to be in. Always the one with the purse strings. That's a popular guy. Bailey.
Hi, my name's Bailey Adioti. I'm Managing Director of Decamai, which is a social enterprise that provides business and operations solutions to hospitality, as well as empowering women from minority communities into setting up their own enterprises. And I'm also a Young Enterprise alumni.
Fantastic. You've practiced that before, Bailey, haven't you? You've said that many times.
I love saying that.
Good, but you know that's what it's all about. Having and one of the things I'll probably ask you about a little bit later on is being able to define like what your business does is a really important part of being able to try and sell it, especially social enterprises who really have to get their mission and purpose across quite succinctly. And Amy.
Hi, yes, thanks for having me. I'm Amy Ritchie. I'm the founder of both Sweet and Bamboo. So very interesting name choices. So our first company, Sweet, created the world's first reusable water bottle made from plant-based materials. And then Bamboo, our second company, creates eco-friendly baby products. And also gives back to low-income families and single-parent families through our products. So, and we have been supported by Young Enterprise and both Firstport as well since day one for both companies. So, it's really good to be here.
And we couldn't have got two more different companies to come and tell you about social enterprise today. So I'm going to pick on Ray first and ask the question: what is social enterprise, Ray? There we go. The all-knowing question.
Well, here's the thing. So there's no legal definition of social enterprise in Scotland. There was a DTI definition in their strategy for success, which is almost 20 years old now. Their definition is a social enterprise is a business with primarily social objectives whose surpluses are principally reinvested for that purpose in the business or in the community, rather than being driven by the need to maximize profits for shareholders and owners. And if you've managed to get through that without falling asleep, I'll kind of smush it together a bit more. Basically, what it is, you have, as a social enterprise, you have two main sets of people that you're working with and for. You've got your customers on the one hand, and you've got your beneficiaries on the other. Basically, what happens is you charge your customers through the nose. The surplus or profits go towards helping the beneficiaries in some way. It's different from a usual kind of private limited company in that there are no shareholders necessarily, though there are community interest companies limited by shares, but let's not get into that. And there is an asset lock in place usually. So for most private businesses, if you decide I'm not going to do this anymore, you can asset strip it, go off, do something else. For a social enterprise, you can't do that. All the assets effectively are donated to another social enterprise. It caps the amount of profits that you as a founder can take out. But in real terms, what it means is that the vision that you have to support beneficiaries will continue even if you leave. which is I think that the major difference between a social enterprise and a private business. Also, social enterprises are, eligible for funding, which is always nice, where private businesses wouldn't be. And they're also, by that token, expected to have demonstrable, measurable social benefit to their beneficiaries, whatever that looks like. And that's a whole different conversation to have. But yeah, that's a social enterprise in a rather large nutshell.
Rather large nutshell. But obviously, you work day in, day out with social enterprises of all shapes and sizes across Scotland. And have you seen recently, and I guess in recent years more than anything, social enterprises becoming more and more prominent in Scotland as a business model?
Yes, well, hopefully, yes. I mean, just in the last 4 years alone, we've seen applications, just go through the roof. Strangely enough, there's been a big spike during the pandemic. I think it's mostly around people reassessing not only their current job situation, but also their priorities in life, and seeing where there are gaps in the community. So what we've actually found is during the pandemic, it was the social enterprise sector that really stepped up. Whether that was through just focused community work or effectively turning into almost charitable operations for the length of the pandemic, where private businesses kind of stepped in as a marketing exercise almost to say, hey, look, we're doing good in the community, and then immediately realizing the scale of the problem and doing one. Or charities were feeling the pinch themselves. It was the social enterprises that were typically sustainable through income generation that were able to kind of step up their stuff during the pandemic. But it's becoming a more fashionable thing as ethical business becomes more of a fashionable thing. But social enterprise is a much more rigorous model for delivering that social benefit than, say, an ethical business would be. Not that I've got anything against ethical businesses, God knows we need more of them. But yes, if you are a social enterprise, you are saying to the world and being very transparent about it, your money, your profits, our profits are going towards a very specific social good. So yeah, it's definitely becoming more fashionable.
More and more. And looking on to that, so Bailey, thinking about the business that you create, I wonder if you could tell us probably a little bit more about the actual services that you deliver through your business, before I ask you some questions about that.
So I created Decami because I noticed that there was a need for support from hospitality. So it's more a bespoke concierge service to help hospitality businesses with aspects that managers and owners don't even want to deal with. So things like recruitment, things like social media, and even creating their menus. So we help businesses with that aspect so that they can concentrate on the most important thing, their customers. And by doing that, we can generate income. We've got a team of project managers. We've all got different things that we love doing for hospitality. So we use our creativity to help hospitality, but we also, I come from an events background, so events are my speciality. So I put on lots of events for corporates, charities, and also it always ends up, Fraser, you're probably the guy that has to do the events for young enterprise, and I don't think Ray's the guy, but I know there's somebody in the organization, but it's always the person that doesn't want to do it that ends up having to organize the events for their organizations. We also just take off the pressure from organizations that they can concentrate on their mission and vision whilst we do what we love to do and just help them I guess create that vision for them for their events. So yes, doing what we love, making money from it, but then also giving back into the community.
And so how did you come up with that idea? And what was your really inspiration to get started?
I've always worked in hospitality and events. So like Amy, I actually had an idea for another social enterprise, but when I went to First Port, and after many discussions, it was decided that maybe I should go for this part of Decami, which is the event side and providing the operation solutions for hospitality, and then it could develop into the second part of Decami at a later stage. So we're already looking at developing the second part next year with the help of Firstport.
Fantastic. And an advice we always give to our students who are thinking in that idea generation stage, which is where a lot of the students are at the moment, is think about what you're passionate about. You know, think about the key skills that you have, but also think about a problem that exists in your world, or your lives, that you can help solve. And I guess social enterprise, in a lot of ways, is how a lot of social enterprise start, because there is a problem that needs solved, or something that needs help to support with.
Definitely.
So Amy, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your business then, and how you came up with these fantastic names as well, because that's one of the the major attention grabbers when I hear you talk about your business.
Yeah, so my first business suite started when I was in my kind of last year of college. I was at Edinburgh College studying beauty therapy for 4 years, and ended up going down a completely different rabbit hole. Had this idea after seeing, the amount of plastic that would end up in the rubbish bins around college, especially at lunchtime. And just the frustration for consumers around reusable bottles that were currently on the market at that time. And so, I came up with this idea to create a reusable water bottle that was made from plant-based materials. We crowdfunded that and launched that back in 2019. And then that kind of took off, and we had been supported by Firstport through all of that, and we ended up I think we were looking to get kind of more funding just to help us scale that. But we kind of realized the way that business is structured is a private company limited by shares, and so that's not always eligible for that type of funding. And so we realized that actually, myself and my co-founder Jake are always full of ideas, and we've seen another kind of solution or problem that we'd like to target, and that was the number one polluter in the world is plastic bottles. Number two was babies' nappies, babies' diapers. And so we thought, okay, we'll just go down the list and we'll tick off one by one. So we started what became Bamboo, and that business is a social enterprise, so it's limited by guarantee, and we were fully supported by Firstport all the way through that as well. And yeah, we basically, with every sale of our eco-friendly nappies made from bamboo fiber, we can donate a box to single parent families or low-income families, because we found that eco-friendly options on the market are always much more expensive, and so those are the families that are going to not be able to choose the eco-friendly option. And so we wanted to do something to help that, and just currently working on expanding that product range as well into different baby products. So yeah, and the names kind of just come about, so Jake came up with Sweet himself, and then I came up with Bamboo myself. So just they kind of randomly come to you.
That's what it's all about. And do you know what I love about the business model you're talking about there, especially for your second product, about giving back and making sure that there's that really positive impact on a particular group of people who necessarily wouldn't be able to engage with your product because of the cost. How important was that when you were planning your business, about making sure that was built into your model?
Yeah, I think when you do the research on what parents are paying out on babies, even parents that can afford to, it is a lot of money, and the amount of diapers or nappies a baby uses a lot, and it's thousands of pounds, and that's just for your generic Pampers or whatever brand, and eco-friendly nappies can be double the price, sometimes 3 times the price, and they're also a lot more difficult to access. Could be just more higher end supermarkets and places like that sell it. It's not so much mainstream. And so we just wanted to make something that was like super easy. Of course, we had some experience in selling direct to consumer through Sweet. And so we thought that being able to sell our products direct to consumer, making it super easy to order online, free shipping, things like that could incentivize those, the families that can afford it, but also then that can in turn help the families that can't afford it. And growing up as well in a single parent family, I know myself how much like my mum would struggle with things, and so it was just always like gonna be the case.
No, I love that. And Bailey, when you're thinking about the impact that Decamai has in terms of how you reinvest the profits from your business, what was kind of the driving force behind that for you?
I think my impact was I just wanted to help everyone. I wanted to help charities that don't have time to put on events. I wanted to put on events for communities. But I think even just with the support and advice from First Pot, and I remember having this conversation with Ray, he actually said to me, you need to make money. Don't see yourself as a charity. You're a social enterprise. So you need to make money so you can do things. He's like, it's not that you give everything for free, because he's like, charities have got money to do things. Charities have got money to hire an event planner. He was like, and when they give you that money, you can reinvest it in the community. So it's also good just to get that advice on seeing that you can offer your service for a reduced price. You don't need to give it away because there will be funding that people can access. But when it comes to accessing low income families and communities, then that was something that we did do. And it was pilot things, pilot events. We put on like film nights for communities. We did salsa, family salsa nights, but then we also had paid salsa events. And it was something that we could engage different communities like all over Glasgow. But the heart of it was always for Decamai was when I was growing up, I didn't see any role models, like when it came to entrepreneurship, when it came to leadership. So it was trying to create role models and to offer women and youth role models when it came to leadership and enterprise. So that was my driving force.
I love that. And Ray, you obviously see and speak with a lot of social enterprises who are trying to get money off of you from your fund. When you're looking at assessing social enterprises, what are some of the key things that make a social enterprise stand out for you as being something that's got the real potential to grow and be sustainable?
Well, we're kind of weird. Generally, we're kind of weird, but in terms of our assessment process, we're even weirder. Because we're dealing, we fund people, not businesses, at the early stages. So, for the main kind of SEF funds, social entrepreneurs funds, Pounds for Purpose, Start It and Build It. Each one of those things revolves around at least some kind of conversation with the applicant. So let's say it's a Pounds for Purpose, which is a 500 quid for just to test an idea out. Or Start It, where you're coming in for 5,000 to start a business. We would have a conversation with the person, and the kind of key things that would jump out at us, especially for starting up a social enterprise, are going to be the person, the individual who's doing it, because it's very rare you've got more than one or two people involved at the very early stage. So, where is that person coming from? What is their drive? Do they have lived experience of the problem that they're trying to solve, or at least help with? And in both cases, you'll have seen just now they did, which is a key part of it, because it is going to give them the drive to get through what is a very, very difficult and very, very exhausting process of starting up a business, especially social enterprise. We look at the business side of things. So if there is a market for what they're planning to do for the chargeable stuff, very often early stage social enterprises don't do a lot of market research into who potential competitors are, or their pricing, or because they're coming at it sometimes from a third sector background, or from, let's face it, a nice person background. I've met very few unpleasant social entrepreneurs in my time. They tend to be good people. But with that comes a tendency to diminish or devalue what they're doing. And as Bailey said, it's like you can't just give away everything for free because people will take advantage of that. So it's about moving them into a space where they're thinking, okay, I can charge through the nose for this. I am a hard-nosed business person, and I've done my market research. I know who my competition is. I know what my pricing is. I know what my value proposition is. So there's that side, and then finally there's the social side of things, which is basically what separates the private businesses from the social enterprises. So the key questions around there are: who are your beneficiaries? Everyone is not a beneficiary. Beneficiaries are specific groups of people that you will be targeting with the surplus or the profits from the business. Ideally, the best ones have some lived experience of the problem, so they know a way to attack the problem that isn't just helicoptering in. We don't tend to fund a lot of, I hate it, it's a very middle class thing, but like people coming in and going into deprived communities and saying, you know what you need? You just need some kale. That's all you need. Eat some kale, you'll be fine. It'll sort out the systemic poverty that's grinding you down. We don't fund those ones. What we do is we fund the people from that community. We go, actually, what we need is after school clubs. What we need is, access to feminine hygiene products. This is what we actually need. And those are the people that we tend to work with. Now, we're not expecting it all to be spit polished when it comes in. In fact, we tend to get suspicious if it looks that way. Usually there is some room for support. Usually what I've found in assessing people, and it is a very soft touch assessment for the most part, it's just a chat, is that sometimes it's the first time people have actually said anything about this to another human being. They've been carrying it around in their heads for a long time and have already been through all the arguments as to why they shouldn't do it and why they should do it. And there's a feeling that they might be laughed at. And that hasn't, it's never happened as far as I'm aware. Because, you're trying to do a good thing, you should be supported in that. But yeah, those are the things that we're looking for. I think most of all, I would probably say resilience is the biggest thing that we look for in individuals. The process of assessment and panels and all the rest of it is one that some people go through a number of times, and that's not because they're bad at it. It's because it's very competitive, and there's maybe a little bit more work that can be done, a bit more development that can be done. The people that are persistent tend to get funded in the end because they engage with the business support that we provide through Just Enterprise. They get a champion in that business advisor. They get a champion in the person who's assessing them. And what happens is that's building relationships that will go on for years, hopefully, where we can keep throwing money at them year after year. But the ones that come in like everything's done, T's crossed, I's dotted, I know exactly where I'm going. Their first hurdle, if they fail that first hurdle, it's very difficult to get back up after that. I want to see some scars, really, when somebody comes in. I want to see some knocks that they've taken, because that's the best indicator as to how well they'll go going forward.
Because it might be that there's a lot of companies here that are listening in or will be listening in. I think actually at the end of their company program journey, we have a lot of students who set up successful businesses that want to go on and actually continue that on as alumni of the program, and hopefully some social enterprises who get started might be tapping on your doorway at the end of this process and come saying I actually want to continue that social enterprise as a viable business, post school, which would be fantastic to see. So fingers crossed. But you mentioned their resilience, right, which is actually a really key skill for all entrepreneurs, regardless of social or commercial, and about having that understanding of just what it takes to put into business. And we've got students all across the country, from Orkney and Shetland down to the borders into Peace and Galloway and everywhere in between, starting up their business in a couple of weeks in today. So I'm going to ask Bailey and Amy to kind of tell what's, in your opinion, and probably in your experience more than anything, some of the key skills that you have really taken and developed over your time running your social enterprises, and something for our students to think about as they're going forward. So, Amy, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I would say probably for me, one of the most important things is consistency, and making sure that your business or your idea is in line with what you believe in yourself, and as Ray says, perhaps something that you've experienced yourself, because there are many tough days, and on those tough days, that's the only thing that really is going to pull you through it and to keep you going, because it's very easy to say, oh, you know what, like, I'm not going to keep doing this is too hard, I'm going to leave it. And of course, that's what most people do. So I think that's the main thing. If you know deep in your, like, what that purpose is, then it's much easier to keep going forward. And then just keeping the consistency, that motivation, and also being ready to, like, try new things. Something I think we've all experienced during this pandemic is being able to do stuff that you might not have been doing before, continuously learning something new. We literally, I would say, learn something new every day. I think if you're not learning, then you're not growing. So I don't think you can ever know it all. And I think that's probably the main things for me and in my experience.
No, I think those are some really key points. And what we tend to find, and I've seen many businesses go through this process on an annual basis, and thinking about, especially looking at social enterprise, students that really believe in their business, because they're really passionate about the problem that they're solving, are the ones that do the best, because it's that continual drive and persistence and consistency to go back day after day, and doing little bit by little bit to develop their business to help solve that problem. You're right, it can be so easy to get switched off, when the hard times come, when those hurdles come, and to try and pick yourself back up again, especially with our students in 5th and 6th year who are in a busy exam time, and it's a mad busy years at school anyway, especially with everything else going on, and contending with a global pandemic that is still having a significant impact on lives. If you really believe in your business, then you're more likely to be successful when it comes to the competition part back round in March time. So Bailey, what about you? What kind of key skills do you think you've developed that are key lessons, I guess, for our students?
I think, just to echo on from what Amy said, just always focus on your why you're doing what you're doing, and that will help drive you even when you're having a low point or a high point. You always focus on your why, and also have a great support network. You're working together as a team, which is great, because when we're starting off as entrepreneurs, I started off myself. Amy was lucky she had a business partner, so you're always looking for people to collaborate with, people to support you, people to encourage you, and I think that's a really important thing. And then just to always go back to your business model. I think that's really important too. Go back to your business model, and if there's things that you can tweak, things that you can improve on, now is the time for you to improve on it. And just going back to resilience, I think the pandemic has been the toughest time for everybody, and it has been also the time where most people think, oh, this is a time to start a social enterprise, because there's so much funding going about, but it's not easy getting funding. I call myself Ray's boxer. Ray's champion boxer, first pot champion boxer, because I have learned the power of resilience through thinking I've got a great model, thinking I'm communicating it well, but when it comes to getting in front of the funder, they're still thinking, but what else? Like, what else is there? And that's what you need to be able to be ready to take those knockbacks, be ready to get back up on your feet again. And I can't remember what round I'm on with Ray, but I love it. I love being in the boxing ring. I've got so many scars to show, but that's what the pandemic has done. I know many social entrepreneurs that have struggled because they thought, there's so much funding, we're going to get all the funding, but it's not been easy. So I think going back to your why, and even my accountant just told me to stop. In March last year, he was just like, just stop. He was like, you're not going to do anything, you're not going to make any money. And what drove me was my why. I kept going because of my why, and I hope that everybody watching will keep going too.
And that's a really great kind of succinct lesson there, isn't it? Remember your why and try and think back to the core of why you started the business. And hopefully that should always be at the heart, especially for social enterprise, of all the decisions that you make, and considering who your beneficiaries are, as you were saying earlier, Ray, and making sure that you're constantly delivering that impact. So you spoke there, Bailey, about some scars in the boxing ring with the Ray there. I don't know if he's shaking his head in disbelief there, but I just wonder. We often, people don't like to talk about the failures in inverted commas, because I don't see them as failures personally. They're always learning moments. I think in those that journey that is running an enterprise and running a business, especially right at the very beginning. So I wonder if you're happy and willing to share what one of the biggest challenges has been that you've faced on your social enterprise journey, and kind of what you've done to overcome that challenge.
I think one of the things is being such a visionary and having so many ideas. So even having the part 2 of Decamai, where I thought that was an amazing idea, and then going in and having First Quote saying, well, these are actually your strengths, and we think you should start on your strengths first before working on another part. At the time, I was thinking, right, okay, but this is still a strength, because it's something that I'm doing, it's something that I'm seeing. But so to have to go back and actually look and think, okay, what am I passionate about? What's easier to develop right now? And I'm actually so glad that they did that, because the first idea that we want to develop next year is actually even bigger than what I'd imagined it would have been 4 years ago. I was speaking to someone for First Port, and he was actually like, yeah, this is a great idea, like definitely develop it next year. So it's even things like that. Writing business plans, not my strength. And it's always having to sit down with somebody and say, okay, this is my strength, I need help with this. And I think as an entrepreneur, you need to be able to ask for help, because if you don't ask for help, then you're going to get nowhere. Especially as a social entrepreneur, social entrepreneurship is the nicest entrepreneurship that you can encounter, and other entrepreneurs are always happy to help you. They're always happy to offer you advice, and also happy to critique what you're doing. So if you don't want to go to a funder for any critique, then go to another social entrepreneur, let them see, and learn from them too. Every day's a school day. I love to learn from other social entrepreneurs. I love to even take part in different things that other social enterprises offer. And I believe that you can never know everything. You'll always learn something, even if you know.
That's a great, and I'm really glad you mentioned about business planning there, because for company program students, next Tuesday we've got a training session all about writing a business plan from Elevator UK, taking place on our YouTube channel as well. So if like Bailey, you're confused about business model, business canvas, business planning, and setting a mission, then tune in next Tuesday at 4:30 for that session. So Amy, I'm going to ask you then the same question. What's some of the biggest challenges that you've faced, and how have you overcome them as part of your social enterprise journey?
I mean, yeah, we've had a bit of a nightmare at times. So for Sweet, it took us about a year and a half to be able to get funding. It was constant no's. People would say it's a saturated market. People would say you're never going to be able to make that into an actual, a physical product. And yeah, it took about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years to get enough funding to be able to actually start the business. And that constant no, it was just really hard to get over, but we knew ourselves that we could do it. And then with Bamboo, like when the pandemic first hit, we were actually about to run another production, and some of the material we use is the same material as toilet roll. And so people were stock buying toilet roll and it was really hard to get. And so our manufacturing costs skyrocketed. Also, there was a huge problem with freight. So there wasn't enough flights or boats or trains coming into the UK. To be honest, there was hardly any. And what was coming in was already being taken by, emergency goods and really important goods. And so our products were kind of left to the side. And we ended up unable to trade for a very long time with that. And to be honest, if we didn't have the funding behind us, I think that would have been I would have not been maybe sharing the story right now. But again, I think it's important to realize that these things do happen, and we all compare ourselves. I look at other businesses, other social enterprises, and you think, oh, like I'm not doing that, or they've done this better than me, or I should be doing that. But it's for all at our own pace and going at our own path. And what's applicable to one business might not be to another. And as long as you're working as hard as you can on your path, then that's where you're meant to be. But it's been, it can be really hard. Like you'll have many sleepless nights and just thinking, what am I going to do? That's what we thought at that point during the pandemic. But you come out the other side, and now, to be honest, it's exciting because now we're looking at, okay, well, this could happen again. In our materials, the costs have still not dropped during this time. So we're launching new products that are even more exciting. So yeah, things happen for a reason.
That's the thing with a social entrepreneur. There's always something exciting around the corner, isn't it? There's always something they can't tell you. But I wonder, Amy, especially when you obviously have created a product and went through that whole process of market research and prototyping your product as well. I wonder how you found that process, because obviously we've got a lot of students here who may be thinking about creating a physical product and going to that kind of manufacturing process, albeit on a much smaller scale and at probably a much more protracted time scale than you did. But what did you find were maybe some key lessons on that prototyping and manufacturing process before you actually got your product to market?
Yeah, this is really important, and I would say from my experience, if I was to go and start over again, I think prototyping is key. So finding somewhere local that can prototype multiple times until you're sure that's that's definitely it, that's the product as good as you can get. Of course, I would say, don't wait for perfection, because you're never going to get perfection. And if you've waited that long, it's been too long. You should have launched by now. But I think, definitely a point where it's a viable product. So working with someone local to do that, I think is best if you can. And then when it comes to outsourcing your manufacturing or scaling up that, just making sure that inspections are in place, and that your contracts are quite strict, making sure your IP is in place, especially if it's quite a unique product, like we had to get patents and things like that. So that is costly and timely. So making sure all that things are done in a process, getting the right advice from places like First Port, places like Young Enterprise Scotland, because there's certain things you might not be able to. You can't share information about your idea if you want to patent it, so that's important. And just I think making sure that whoever you're working with is also got that same vision as you and the same purpose as you. We've had manufacturing horror stories and problems with both businesses in terms of manufacturing. So I've got the whirlwinds from that, but it's made our products better. It's made our understanding of our customers better, and I think as long as you learn from it and adapt quickly, you'll be okay.
But you're still here, showing that key resilience.
Yes, yes.
So Ray, a question for you then. What are some of the key things that you think about for, obviously a lot of social enterprises, that are maybe common mistakes, or maybe mistakes is the wrong word, but common pitfalls of people that are starting up a social enterprise for the first time that you wish people knew before they came to speak to you?
Oh, go. How long you got? All right, here we go. Here we go, folks. Right. Let me see. What can I think of? There is a word that is knocking around that gets bandied about by social entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs that makes our chief execs nosebleed. And that word is unique. You are not unique. You, as individually, may be a beautiful snowflake, but your business model is not unique. Saying that you're the only anything means you haven't done any kind of research into anything. The competition element is a key one. People will come in and say, nobody's providing exactly what we're providing. And that may be true, but they will be providing a version of part of what you're providing. So you need to understand, is that competition, are they going for the same money as you? As well as a lot of organizations that we've had over the years that are trying to engage with pupil equity funding in particular. And they were like, no, nobody else is doing our things. Like, yes, but there are other people, other organizations that are engaging with pupil equity funding. So you need to understand what your value judgment is there. Having, I would say, not engaging with the support that's out there is a massive, massive red flag. I get very worried when people think they know it all when they come in. There's a level of confidence that's great, but I think as Bailey and Amy have said, sorry, we've got a screaming cat, have said, it's knowing where to go when you don't know something, because somebody else will know it. Those that kind of come in all guns blazing, going, nah, there's nothing you can teach me, their businesses aren't going to go anywhere. I think the third thing is knowing that you're going to fail. Like, you are going to fail at some point, whether that's catastrophic or whether that's minor. It doesn't matter. You're going to fail, and what matters most is how well you walk through that fire. The ones that are ill prepared for failure are basically ill prepared, and they're gonna get it the worst. I would also say that spite is a great motivator. And don't be afraid of, like, some people are kind of afraid of kind of tapping into their dark side a little bit. If you get knocked back by us, and a year later, 2 years later, I see you are, at Edge or something, getting through the finals of Edge. I'm not naming any names here. I'm like, great, fantastic, you made it work. As has been discussed, the social enterprise sector is very small. It's a bit of a sewing circle, can be, but it also is very, very supportive. And any new social enterprise in that, we're going to be championing. Even if we couldn't fund it, we're still going to be like waving on the sidelines. So, yeah, there are a lot of things. Competition, market, assumed market when there is none. The social impact being completely indirect. We're helping other organizations. Well, then you're not providing direct social impact to individuals. That's a difficult one to explain to people sometimes. Or that just being there is not a social impact. Like, we are available for people to come to us. It's not a social impact. You need to be targeting and helping people. Yeah, those are kind of the big ones that would immediately kind of raise alarm bells at our end.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that one about direct impact, because we often see students, companies who think they're a social enterprise because they're selling a product and then they're donating money to charity at the end, and that's not a social enterprise as a model.
The example I always give of that, whenever we see it often, is that Amazon donates money to charity and Starbucks donates money to charity. Nobody's calling them social enterprises. You know, Elon Musk donates millions to charity. If we taxed him right, he would be donating billions to charity. So it's not, philanthropy is not social impact, which is a bit of a hard line to take. You need to be delivering stuff directly to people.
That's it's a really important lesson, I think, and part of that definition and understanding, you know, if they want to be a social enterprise, companies have to have that kind of identified demonstrable impact directly to individuals. That's a really key lesson, I think. I hope a lot of students who are listening take away. If you are considering social enterprise, really think about what impact you want to have, what impact you're able to have as well. Because, you know, think about, you know, you as a business, what you're able to achieve within the time frame of running the program over the next 6-7 months. It's a short time. You know, you're not going to change the world in 7 months. Great to have that ambition in the future if you want to continue your business on. But the businesses we see that are really successful are the ones who have a really well-defined why, as Bailey mentioned earlier, that says we are going to do this to help and make an impact here. And the more defined that impact is, the much easier it is for you as a business to really target it, I think, or the ones that we've seen in the past anyway. I said, well, we're going to target this really small group and we're going to do it really well. And you really are going to have, it's much better to have a much bigger impact on a small group of people than a really diluted impact on a wider group. So have a real think about that as you go through. We're coming nearly to the end of our session as well. I can't believe that's been 50 minutes of chatting all about social enterprise, but I mean, we could literally talk about this for days and weeks on end because it's such a wide and varied topic, and there's so many examples out there. So if you are considering social enterprise, there are loads of great resources online to have examples of the types of products or services that you might want to create and the type of impact that you can have. But I'm going to go around the room as like final thoughts for things, anything you want to share, final pieces of pearls of wisdom, golden nuggets of advice to give to our students. I know you've given a wealth of knowledge and advice already, so if there's nothing else, that's totally fine. But Bailey, I'll come to you first, and I know if people want to tune in to hear more in depth about Bailey's story, where I'm interviewing Bailey as part of our an audience with our alumni session on the 21st of October as well. So tune back in just after October holidays to hear a lot more in depth about Bailey's story. But Bailey, do you want to give us a golden nugget of advice for our students?
My advice for you would be just go for it and enjoy it.
Nice, short and sweet. You are queen of the succinct messages today, Bailey. I'm loving it. Amy, what about you? Any golden nuggets to finish off?
I would say purpose, vision, consistency. Is that it? Maybe that's it. Oh, and support, yeah.
Perfect. And Ray, final words from you then. You get the final golden nugget.
Make sure your social impact is hardwired into your business model.
Fantastic.
You're not selling sweets to combat childhood obesity.
An excellent example to finish the session on today. Thank you so much, genuinely, for all of your time this afternoon. I think there's some really inspirational words of advice, and I'm sure all the students who are watching live or will catch up on this session later on, who are considering social enterprise, will be really inspired by the questions and the advice that you've given and support. I can't wait to see what all of you go on to create with all of your businesses. As always, it's such a joy to see the real creativity and innovation every single year that students put into their businesses and companies. So I hope to see many, many more social enterprises created this year, because we all like to make a difference, and being able to see that impact is really important. So good luck for the rest of your journey. Thank you so much to our speakers for their time this evening, and I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you.